news. We actually had good news today in this timeline. I barely allowed myself to feel hope on this one, and for months had my calendar circled off for November 7th and waiting over the weekend with my fingernails dug in, and finally, the Supreme Court of the United States decided not to take an opportunity to overturn Obergefell V Hodges, which would have ended marriage going forwards between same-sex individuals.
Today, the U.S. Supreme Court has declined to revisit a ruling that recognizes a constitutional right to same-sex marriage.
Huge! Huge day. So, what the hell happened? Well, I pulled up a few articles to go through it with you because, just peeking ahead, Kim Davis, who tried to push this, just keeps catching L after L, and it's kind of incredible. So where are we at today? U.S. Supreme Court rejects bid to overturn same-sex marriage ruling. The 2015 landmark Obergefell V Hodges ruling legalized same-sex marriage nationwide. The U.S. Supreme Court rejected on Monday a bid by a former Kentucky county official to overturn its landmark 2015 ruling legalizing same-sex marriage nationwide. As the justices steered clear of the contentious case more than 3 years after its conservative majority reversed abortion rights. The court, which has a 6-3 conservative majority, turned away an appeal by Kim Davis, a former Kentucky county clerk. This will come into play later. Who was sued by a gay couple after refusing to issue any marriage licenses once the 2015 decision recognized a constitutional right to same-sex marriage.
We're getting ready to go into the Rowan County Courthouse and apply for a marriage license. We've been together for 17 years and we feel that it's our right as citizens, according to the Supreme Court and according to the governor of Kentucky, that we should be able to get married.
Well, I'd like for you to put your phone away.
Davis has said same-sex marriage conflicts with her religious beliefs as an apostolic Christian. Davis appealed after lower courts rejected her claim that the U.S. Constitution's First Amendment right to free exercise of religion shields her from liability in this case. Davis was ordered to pay more than $360,000 in damages and legal fees for violating a same-sex couple's right to marry. Oh my God, this comes into play later. The 2015 ruling in the case called Obergefell v Hodges represented a historic victory for LGBTQ rights in the United States. It declared that the Constitution's guarantees of due process and equal protection under the law meant that states cannot ban same-sex marriages. The ruling was 5-4, with now retired conservative Justice Anthony Kennedy joined by 4 liberal justices. Kennedy wrote in the decision that the hope of gay people intending to marry was not to be condemned to live in loneliness, excluded from one civilization's oldest institutions. They ask for equal dignity in the eyes of the law. The Constitution grants them that right. Overturning Obergefell would allow states once again to pass laws against same-sex marriage. 4 conservative justices dissented, 3 of whom still serve on the court: Clarence Thomas, John Roberts, and Samuel Alito. The court's conservative bloc also includes 3 justices appointed by Republican President Donald Trump during his first term in office. The Trump administration did not weigh in on the Davis case as the Supreme Court considered whether to take up this. You know who else we didn't hear from for a while? Gays for Trump. During all this, they seemed suspiciously quiet. Something that gave me pause as I was reading through this is when I was checking out on NPR, I noticed that they said when the Supreme Court was considering this, the court declined her petition without comment. They don't say why, they don't give any reason, just for now they're declining it. So who is Kim Davis? On ABC News, Supreme Court formally asked to overturn landmark same-sex ruling. Scrolling down, 10 years after the Supreme Court extended marriage rights to same-sex couples nationwide, the justices this fall will consider for the first time whether to take up a case that explicitly asked them to overturn that decision. Kim Davis, the former Kentucky county clerk who was jailed for 6 days in 2015 after refusing to issue marriage licenses to a gay couple on religious grounds, is appealing a $100,000 jury verdict for emotional damages plus $260,000 in attorney fees. I did not know the breakdown of the amounts that were awarded, and seeing that she had to pay her own lawyers over $250,000. Incredible. Chef's kiss. In a petition for writ of certiorari filed last month, Davis argues First Amendment protection for free exercise of religion immunizes her from personal liability for the denial of marriage licenses. Nah. More fundamentally, she claims the court's decision in Obergefell v Hodges extending marriage rights for same-sex couples under the 14th Amendment's due process protections was egregiously wrong. My God, Kim, get a hobby. The mistake must be corrected, wrote Davis attorney Matthew Staver in the petition. He calls Justice Anthony Kennedy's majority opinion in Obergefell legal fiction. Some people really do operate in a different reality, don't they? The petition appears to mark the first time since 2015 that the court has been formally asked to overturn the landmark marriage decision. Davis is one of the only Americans currently with legal standing to bring a challenge to the precedent. If there ever was a case of exceptional importance, Staver wrote, the first individual in the Republic's history who was jailed for following her religious convictions regarding the historic definitions of marriage, this should be it. Buddy.
I don't want anybody to go to jail over, their religious beliefs. She has a right to her beliefs, but we're talking about the law now. This isn't about belief anymore. I have beliefs too, but I would never impose my beliefs on somebody else's rights.
Lower courts have dismissed Davis's claims, and most legal experts consider her bid a long shot. A federal appeals court panel concluded earlier this year that the former clerk cannot raise the First Amendment as a defense because she is being held liable for state action, which the First Amendment does not protect. So she, in her job of court clerk, is not in the position of court clerk having any First Amendment protections because she's working as a member of the government. She can't then decide that she gets to overrule the government's decision just because she feels like it. Davis, as the Rowan County clerk in 2015, was the sole authority tasked with issuing marriage licenses on behalf of the government under state law. Not a single judge in the U.S. Court of Appeals showed any interest in Davis's rehearing petition, and we are confident the Supreme Court will likely agree that Davis's argument does not merit further attention, said William Powell, attorney for David Arnold and David Moore, the now married Kentucky couple that sued Davis for damages, in a statement to ABC News. Oh my God. All right, well, looking into this, I actually found an old article, which is kind of incredible. I want to show you this. All right, what was top of the news when Kim Davis was trying to fight this all the way to the Supreme Court? Could it be hypocrisy? Kim Davis divorces called out as she fights gay marriage in Supreme Court. Oh my God, the arbiter of what is right and true in marriage has divorces under her belt? Surely not that many though, right? Social media users are criticizing former Kentucky County Clerk Kim Davis for her multiple divorces. Oh, dang it, multiple. Oh no. As she urges the Supreme Court to take on her case challenging gay marriage. Davis has been divorced 3 times.
That I am a hypocrite of a Christian. No, I'm forgiven, washed clean.
According to court records obtained by U.S. News and World Report, Davis refused to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples, saying her faith prevented her from complying with the Supreme Court 2015's ruling in Obergefell V Hodges. The Supreme Court was expected to consider whether it will hear Davis's case at a closed-door conference on Friday. Josh Sorbet, a spokesperson for the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee Democrats, wrote on Twitter, the triple divorced homophobe Kim Davis is back at the Supreme Court today to try preaching sanctity of marriage and block LGBTQ plus folks' right to marry. She'll lose again, and she'll hopefully begin to reflect within. Aw. You think she will? Nah. Actor John Barrowman wrote on Twitter, this Kim Davis, who has been married 4 times, thinks she has the right and moral judgment to challenge my marriage to my husband and other loving couples out there in the Supreme Court. Oh my God. Davis divorced in 1994, then in 2006, then again in 2008, only 7 years before she decided to pull this maneuver. And she has since remarried, according to records obtained by U.S. News and World Report. God dang, if your new husband doesn't use this as grounds to divorce, this besmirches his character too, I believe. You know what else I found when looking into this? An article by Global News back in 2017. A gay man was refused a marriage license by Kim Davis. Now he might get her job. Take a look at this picture. Who do you think Kim is sitting in front of? Oh my God, L after L. It's incredible. David Arnold, right, files to run for Rowan County Clerk in Kentucky as Clerk Kim Davis looks on Wednesday. In Moorhead, Kentucky. Davis denied Arnold and his husband's marriage license 2 years ago because she was opposed to gay marriage for religious reasons, and now has to sit across from him as he tries to take her job? Hell yeah. Moorhead, Kentucky. David Arnold returned to the Rowan County Courthouse Wednesday, nearly 2 years after Clerk Kim Davis refused to give him a marriage license because he was gay. Only this time, he did not want a license. He wanted Davis's job. Arnold filed... Airmold. Oh my God, have I been reading your name wrong this whole time? I'm so sorry. Airmold filed to run for county clerk on Wednesday, hoping to challenge the woman who 2 years ago told him God's authority prohibited her from complying with a U.S. Supreme Court decision that effectively legalized gay marriage nationwide. Airmold and others sued her, and Davis would spend 5 days in jail for disobeying the federal judge's order. Boom! She emerged to a rapturous rally on the jailhouse lawn, arm in arm with a Republican presidential candidate as a newly crowned martyr for some conservatives. Boo! In the 2 years years since then, things have quieted down in this Appalachian town, previously known for a college basketball team at Morehead State University that occasionally qualifies for the NCAA tournament. Last month, Davis announced she would run for re-election and face voters for the first time since refusing to issue marriage licenses. 3 other people have also filed to run against her, including Elwood Caudill Jr., who lost to Davis by just 23 votes in 2014 Democratic primary. But Caudill, like many people in Morehead, doesn't want to talk about Davis and gay marriage. Ermold does. I think we need to deal with the circumstances and the consequences of what happened, Ermold said. I don't think the candidates are looking at a larger message. I have an obligation here, really, to do this and set things right. Wednesday, Ermold and his husband sat across from a desk from Davis as they filed his paperwork to run for office. Davis smiled and welcomed them. Oh, she must have been so confident. I'll tell you what, long story short, she lost that race. Unfortunately, he didn't win. One of the other individuals did, but she lost. It'll be a good one, I'm sure, Davis told reporters about the election. Asked if she thought she deserved to be reelected, Davis said, "That will be up to the people. I think I do a good job." Davis doesn't object to issuing marriage licenses now that the state legislature has changed the law, so her name is not on the license. Okay. I'll never get tired of this picture. So long story short, Kim Davis is a product of the past, and people are swiftly moving on and moving past from her. The world is moving forwards, and today, love wins. There are, unfortunately, other things that are happening right now at the same time, including the Supreme Court allowing Trump to prohibit gender election on passports. I was also reading into this on NPR. The U.S. Supreme Court on Thursday allowed President Trump to proceed with his plan to require that passport applicants list their sex as what was designated on their birth certificate. The court's decision overturns a lower court order pausing Trump's policy and allowing applicants to choose for themselves whether they would like to identify with an M for male, F for female, or X for neither. I remember when this initially came out, I think it was like 2021 under Biden, that people could actually elect to have X on their passports. It was definitely in 1 or 2 of my videos where we talked about it, but god dang, that looks so cool. It's like, gender? None of your goddamn business. Hands off me, government. All these people that are constantly defending freedoms, y'all should be on board with that. Right? It's pretty badass to write that on your passport. We know Gen X should have been behind this, supporting this 100%. Y'all remember Gen X Rises? Such a good trend. I loved it. Gen X rises, dun with arthritic knees, dun. Male and female sex markers began to be listed on passports in 1976. The government has allowed for citizens for over 30 years to request a passport that reflects their gender identity instead of the sex listed on a birth certificate. The choice to use an X, however, only began in 2021 under President Biden, led by Ashton Orr, a transgender man who was falsely accused of using a fake passport by airport security when traveling with a passport that had a female sex marker. A nationwide group of plaintiffs argued that Trump's policy would hurt transgender and non-binary individuals, would harm the government's ability to identify citizens, and was motivated by unconstitutional transphobia in violation of the 14th Amendment guarantee to equal protection of the law. The challenge policy undermines the very purpose of passports as identity documents that officials check against the bearer's appearance. Orr's attorney said in their briefs, it is aimed at the rejection of the identity of an entire group, transgender Americans who have always existed.
Just so we're all still on the same page, the United States of America wants me to have female on my passport now. So I moved through the world as a man, and I can't get a new passport that has male on it as of the new rules with this administration. So say to my face, Marco Rubio, that you want me to have female on my passport.
I've said this before, but trans people have been here long since before society began, and they will be here long after it falls. The government, or as counsel points out, acknowledged that the outing of transgender, intersex, and non-binary individuals was core to the policy. Their whole point was to try to make things as uncomfortable as possible for any trans individuals, any non-binary individuals, any intersex individuals to exist in public spaces. Their whole point is to try to exclude them from being able to participate in society. The government submitted its emergency filing to the Supreme Court after the U.S. Court of Appeals for the First Circuit refused to block the lower court order that paused Trump's policy. The government argued that the injunction injures the United States by compelling it to speak to foreign governments in contravention of both the president's foreign policy and scientific reality. Ew. God dang. Trying to push basic biology that you stopped learning about in the 5th grade into government policy is super cringe, bro. Just declaring openly, I'm scientifically illiterate. Oh, okay, cool. Flex, bro. With its decision on Thursday, the Supreme Court signaled that it likely agrees with the administration. The court's decision is not a final ruling. However, it just permits Trump's biological sex passport policy to go into effect while litigation continues in the lower courts. The vote was a 6-3 along ideological lines. sentence. Displaying passport holders' sex at birth no more offends equal protection principles than displaying their country of birth, the court said in the unsigned order. In both cases, the government is merely attesting to a historical fact without subjecting anyone to differential treatment. We're not othering anybody. I mean, okay, we're othering trans people, but like, you know, we loosely say people in this context. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson wrote the dissent, which was joined by the court's two other liberals. She called the order a pointless but painful perversion of equitable discretion. This court has once again paved the way for immediate infliction of injury without adequate or really any justification, she wrote. That's the end of the article. If you have any people in your life that need extra support right now, please reach out to them and let them know that you care about them. This is meant to other so many people in our society and so many people in our community. We need to let them know they are not alone and we are right alongside them. All right, that's it. Get out of here. Go outside.